What's up guys, it is Chris back with another watch video, and today I'm doing a little bit of a comparison between major brand and micro brand. So Seiko versus some micro brands that I have here. All of these watches are here on loan except for obviously the Seiko SBDC061, which is mine. I sort of use this watch as the benchmark for all divers watches, just because it is affordable, it's good looking, it's very well made, and it really is one of my favorite watches, an all-around great watch for almost any situation. So on the left here we have NTH. This is the Amhpion. This has a Miyota movement in it. Then we have Collins watches. This has a SW200 in it. All of these are automatic, obviously. And then we have the NorthStar by Ventus. This has an NH35 in it. So also all three of these micro brands are sort of at different price tiers. And then the Seiko is also on a different price tier, but we'll get into price later. Starting with the NTH. So this is the black dial with gilt on it. It is a very handsome watch, definitely inspired by Rolex and Tudor, vintage Rolex and current Tudors. Obviously you have signed crown, screwed in case back, all stainless steel construction, screwed in links, drilled lugs, milled end links, signed crown. This has a metal bezel insert. It is aluminum and then it is painted. You have a little red hip at the end. Like I said, no applied indices on this, probably intentional just to make it look more vintage. It is gilt and everything is printed on the dial. Obviously you have a sapphire crystal. Miyota movement in here. It's a 9000 series, so it is pretty thin. You have a good amount of adjustment here on the clasp. The clasp is milled, double deployant, opens up, and you have a pretty good milled clasp on this. Bracelet and finishing are very nice on this watch, especially for the price. This comes in at around 600 and change, just under 700. So a very nice watch overall, and very good specs. You have a date there. The date is color matched at 6 o'clock as well. Then we have the Collins watch. Right now, Collins watch is offering 20% off on their website for Memorial Day. So this watch comes in at around 500 and change, I think around 550. Like I mentioned, you're getting a Swiss-made SW200. This is assembled and adjusted here in the United States, so that is very nice. Aluminum bezel insert. This has a matte blue dial, but is a very vibrant blue, very nice color. And then you have applied indices on this watch. No drilled lugs, but you do have milled end links, screwed in links as well. The only fault on this watch, what I would say, is that it has a pressed clasp. The clasp is basically fully pressed. Even the other parts of the clasp are pressed, not just the scissor. Screwed in case back, signed crown. Just a really good value proposition out of all three of these, I would say, including the Ventus, even though that has an NH35. This is a very good deal as well. But this gets the SW200. So if you are looking for a pretty unique watch, something that is its own sort of design and with a Swiss movement, really, this is a very cheap watch actually for what you're getting. And it's just that clasp is probably its only drawback. Everything else about this watch is pretty attractive. We'll do bezel action all in a row so we could hear them all in a row. I think that it makes sense so you could hear the differences. So I'm not going to turn any bezels yet. And these are all generally around the same size. So 40 millimeters, 40 millimeters, 40 millimeters, or 41 millimeters. The Seiko is 44 millimeters, so it is the largest out of the bunch, but it does fit and wear very similarly to these 40 millimeter watches. So I'm going to go to the Ventus next. This is a fully loomed dial. Screwed in crown. The crown is at the 4 o'clock position. This is signed. All the crowns are signed except for the Seiko, of course, which is kind of ironic. This is, like I mentioned, a fully loomed dial. All of the indices are applied. Very good loom on this watch. Screwed links, and you get a very nice milled buckle here, and you could see there is a lot of similarities to the buckle that is actually on the Amhpion. As you could see, this Ventus is just a little bit smaller, but very similar, just a little bit different in size, but overall finish and look of the buckle is very similar, except this Amhpion has a double deployant. NH35 screwed in case back, milled end links on this. A little bit less micro adjust. There's actually 4 positions. There's only 3 positions on the Collins. Again, another drawback, but it's just everything that is a drawback on the Collins comes from that clasp. I don't know why they would put that on there. It's such an awesome watch, and it would be really a killer watch in general. This is a great value proposition. NH35, as I mentioned, so Seiko movement. This is the only one with a ceramic bezel out of all of these watches, and it is the cheapest out of all of these watches. So I believe this watch, when it was being sold as on pre-sale, was around $269, and I think it went up to $300 or thereabouts after the pre-sale, but I believe these have actually sold out with the fully loomed dial and bracelet. You can't get these now, I don't believe. I still have it on loan. Just a really cool watch. 300 meters on all of these watches except for, of course, the Seiko. So, to the Seiko. Now, the Seiko itself, like I said, is 44 millimeters. It has milled end links. It has push pin and collar system in the bracelet, which is not great, obviously. You do have a milled buckle. It is not fully milled, so this is definitely a pressed element. And then the diver's extension, which is really not needed, is fully pressed. And the fold over is also pressed, but a very interesting bracelet in general. The bracelets on Seikos aren't great. This has one of the best bracelets on a Seiko that I have ever handled. It is seriously very, very well made. It is just finished beautifully. The case in general on this watch, finishing is a step above all of the watches on the table when it comes to Seiko, but Seiko also have a lot of problems. My bezel, chapter ring, and 12 o'clock indice does not line up. None of the watches on this table from Microbrands have that issue. Tell me why, I don't know. You have an aluminum bezel insert that is painted, applied indices, a non-color match date wheel. However, they could have at least matched it to the loom color. So it is a bright white compared to the loom, which is a little bit darker. That's a pet peeve, I guess. And then non-screwed, non-signed crown. Crown is at 4 o'clock. Screwed in case back, of course, and the typical Seiko case back. Really, an all-around amazing watch. Very good loom on this. So it does have some drawbacks when compared to these other watches. You get the 6R15 in here, which is a little bit nicer than a 4R movement, but out of all 4 of these, the Collins has the nicest movement with the SW200. Then I would say it would be a tie between the NTH and the Seiko for second place. And then you have an NH35, which is just a workhorse movement. It's not the most accurate, but it is a very good movement and very reliable. Out of all of these, the bracelet is the nicest on the Seiko. All 3 of the other watches from the Microbrands are very on par with each other. I would say that maybe that the NTH is a little bit nicer, but not much nicer at all, and than the other 2. And you know, for my money, I really do like the Collins, and I really like that it has the SW200. But all in all, very, very good looking watches. All of these watches are very good looking. And it would be a very tough decision. Now, the price on the Seiko, now this is where the Seiko falls behind again. This is $1,100 if you want to buy this retail. If you want to buy it secondhand, they're selling around $700 to $800 on the gray market, $900 on the gray market. So again, a more expensive watch when compared to the rest of the three of these. So okay, let's do some bezel action. The bezel action on these are pretty fantastic. Again, I would say maybe the Seiko is the worst out of all of these, but let's hear them. So the NorthStar first. Next, the Seiko. Almost sounds like a cat purring. Next, the Collins. Very nice. And then last but not least, the NTH. Very, very solid, very, very tight bezel, but very good sounding bezel on that NTH. So really, I would say the Seiko, right off the bat, the worst out of all four of these. I would say a tie between the Collins and the NTH. And then the Ventus, probably a close third. However, for the price, it's very, very good. Very good sounding bezel. Next, I'll do a lume shot, but I do like to do this also. I like to go through the clasps, and the sounds of the clasps are, you know, tell you a lot about the watch as well. You know, when a watch is made with very, very close tolerances, and the clasps make very good, you know, sounds when they're closed. I know that's kind of crazy, and this is something maybe that I'm only interested in, but I am interested in how the clasp actually sounds. So I will do that. Pretty solid, very solid. That was the Ventus, the Collins. Actually very, very solid and sounds very nice. The NTH. Okay, not bad. And then the Seiko. Unfortunately, I think the Seiko loses this one again. Right off the bat, it is not as nice, just not as satisfying, I would say. I think the most satisfying was the Collins out of all four. And then probably a tie between the NTH and the NorthStar. So yeah, there you go. So now I'm going to do a quick lume shot, but before I do, I'm going to just show you the watch I'm wearing today. It is the incredible and very beautiful Crew Automatic. This is the Diamondback. This is on the rubber strap. This was just sent to me by the brand, and I love this watch. It is so comfortable. It's just an amazing watch. 41 millimeters. It just fits amazing on your wrist. It's just a beautiful watch. That dial, incredible. I love this watch. Okay, so a quick lume shot. So I don't think there's many watches out there that can beat the Ventus because it's obviously a fully loomed dial, but the NTH does give it a really good run for its money. There is a lot of lume in that bezel, and it is very bright. Obviously, Lumibright, very good from Seiko. Seikos usually have excellent lume. And then the Collins is not so bright. The bezel is not loomed. The dial is nicely loomed, all those applied indices. It looks really nice. It glows a nice cool blue. It is super luminova. However, not the brightest out of all of these. However, I would say the best value on the table is the Collins, and then the NorthStar, in my opinion. The best all-around watch, everyday watch, would probably be the NTH. It looks really, really good. It's a very handsome watch, and it's a very good everyday watch. So out of all of these watches, I think my favorite would be obviously the Seiko, because I love that watch. It's one of my favorite watches of all time, but I really love the Collins watch. I think it looks cool. It looks very different from any other watch. And the NTH, I really like the NTH. I like both of these watches. I think they're both very, very cool watches. They both have their pros, obviously. The Swiss movement in the Collins, and then the really exceptional loom and style of that vintage looking dial with that gilt. It looks really good. And the bracelets are just a tad nicer because of the clasp than the Collins. So really it depends on what you're looking for. If you're a loom junkie, definitely get the NTH. But if you care about the movement a lot, the SW200, something that's made in the United States or assembled in the United States and adjusted, very, very cool with the Collins. Anyway, if you found this video interesting or helpful, please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. It is super helpful for the channel. Please add a comment below. Tell me what you think about these watches. Obviously, I have compared many watches to the SBDC061. I love the SBDC061, as you guys know. I've had this watch for a very long time. Tell me what you guys think about all of these watches, one of these watches. Tell me what you think about these watches in general. I love these watches. I love stainless steel watches on bracelets, especially dive watches, obviously. So this was a no-brainer to make this video. I just love fiddling around with these watches. Anyway, please add a comment below. Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram at WatchChrisBlog. It is very helpful and much appreciated. And thank you for logging on.